me say this. Some of the promises that God will give us in life are instantaneous. God promises something and we can claim it right now. Salvation is like that. You don't have to wait for the promise of salvation. As soon as you put your faith in Christ, it's an instant promise that is fulfilled. Salvation, you don't wait on it. Notice what Paul says in Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, what are the next two words? You will, what will happen? Be saved. It's not something you have to wait on, okay? So if you've never accepted Christ in your life, if you will confess Jesus as Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, instantaneously, no waiting required, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified. It is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. So many of the promises of God are instantaneous. You believe it and it happens to you immediately. But there are other promises, particularly related to your personal journey with God, that you're going to have to wait on. God gave a promise to Noah. Noah had to wait somewhere between 50 and 75 years for the promise to be fulfilled in terms of moving through the ark and God taking care of him and his family when the flood came. Abraham and Sarah, as we'll see in just a moment, they had to wait for 25 years. Joseph in the Old Testament has to wait for 13 years for his dream to be fulfilled. God gave him a dream, but he waits 13 years before it's time stamped by God. Moses has to wait 40 years. Think about that, 40 years. Again, God gave him a promise to be the deliverer of Israel, but he had to wait for 40 years before that promise was fulfilled. Hannah in the Old Testament, she wanted a child. She had to wait and pray for quite a period of time before that child was born. David, before he becomes the king of Israel, he has to wait. He's pursued by King Saul for 10 to 15 years before he becomes the king of Israel. Paul, as he begins his ministry, waits somewhere between 10 and 14 years before he actively engages in ministry. And Jesus himself waited 30 years before he started his ministry.